Emma clutched the crumpled newspaper ad. Her heart pounded. A live-in caretaker position. Excellent pay. Secluded location. It felt too good to be true. Desperation outweighed her doubt. She needed this job. Badly. Rent was overdue. Her savings were gone. This job was her last hope. She traced the address with her finger. Blackwood Manor. The name sent chills down her spine. Images of a Gothic mansion shrouded in mist filled her mind. It sounded like something out of a horror movie. But she had no other choice. She had to try. The bus ride was long and bumpy. The sun began to set as they approached the outskirts of town. Trees loomed, casting long, eerie shadows across the road. Finally, the bus screeched to a halt. Emma stepped off, her backpack feeling heavy on her shoulders. She was alone. The old iron gates of Blackwood Manor loomed before her. They were twisted and overgrown with ivy. A shiver ran down Emma's spine. As she pushed open the gates, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was stepping into a nightmare. Blackwood Manor was imposing. Dark, brooding and silent. The windows were like vacant eyes staring out at her. Emma swallowed her fear and approached the front door. The heavy oak creaked open as if inviting her in. The air inside was stale and cold. Dust motes danced in the faint light filtering through the dusty windows. Silence hung heavy, broken only by the sound of her own breathing. Emma explored the house, each room as empty and echoing as the last. She found her room at the end of a long, shadowy hallway. It was surprisingly spacious, with a four-poster bed and a fireplace. But something about the room felt off, like an unseen presence lingered in the shadows. As darkness fell, the silence of the house became oppressive. Every creak of the floorboards, every sigh of the wind against the windows, sent shivers down Emma's spine. She tried to ignore the feeling of being watched, but it was no use. Something was wrong. She could feel it in her bones. Sleep offered no escape. Emma was plagued by nightmares, visions of snarling beasts and blood-red eyes. She would wake with a start, her heart pounding in her chest. The silence of the house seemed to amplify her fear. One night, she woke to a sound, a low growl coming from the hallway outside her room. Terror froze her blood. She listened, holding her breath. The growl came again, closer this time, followed by the sound of heavy paws scraping against the wooden floor. Emma grabbed her phone, her hand trembling so violently she could barely dial. No signal. She was trapped, alone with whatever lurked outside her door. The doorknob rattled. Emma's breath caught in her throat. Fear, raw and primal, surged through her. She threw her weight against the door, desperate to keep whatever was out there from getting in. But the force of the impact sent her sprawling across the floor. The door swung open, revealing nothing. The hallway was empty, but the growling continued, echoing up from the depths of the house. S5.
Days turned into weeks. The strange occurrences continued, whispers in the dead of night, objects moving on their own, the stench of decay that seemed to cling to the shadows. Emma's fear morphed into a chilling certainty. She wasn't alone in Blackwood Manor. One evening, she found a hidden door in the library. It was concealed behind a tapestry, its outline barely visible in the dim light. Curiosity, or perhaps a morbid fascination, compelled her to open it. The door creaked open, revealing a narrow staircase leading down into darkness. Against her better judgment, Emma descended. The air grew colder, thick with the smell of damp earth and something else, something foul. As she reached the bottom of the stairs, a low growl echoed through the darkness.
Two glowing red eyes pierced the gloom. Panic surged through Emma. She stumbled back, her foot catching on the uneven stone floor. She fell, landing hard. As she looked up, her blood ran cold. Standing over her was a creature unlike anything she had ever seen. A monstrous black dog with 3 heads, each snarling and snapping at her. Cerberus.
Terror choked Emma. She scrambled back, pressing herself against the damp stone wall. The 3 heads of the beast lunged, teeth bared in a menacing snarl. Emma squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for the end, but the attack never came. She cautiously opened her eyes. Cerberus had retreated a few steps, its 3 heads watching her intently. The growls continued, but seemed less ferocious, more curious. Emma slowly got to her feet, her gaze never leaving the creature. She had to get out of there, but how? As she took a tentative step back, one of Cerberus's heads let out a low growl, warning her not to go any further, or was it keeping her there, trapped? She had stumbled upon something ancient, something evil, and now it seemed she was caught in its web. Fear gnawed at her, but a strange sense of determination began to rise within her. She wouldn't be a victim. She would find a way out of this. She had to. S1. Cerberus, the Guardian of the Underworld. What was it doing here, in this house?
Emma was a prisoner in her own home, confined to the floors above the basement. Cerberus was always there, a constant, menacing presence.
She could hear its growls echoing up through the floorboards, a constant reminder of the danger lurking below. She tried to escape, once. She made it as far as the front gate before a deafening roar stopped her in her tracks. Cerberus materialized in front of her, teeth bared, blocking her path. The message was clear. There was no escape. Days turned into weeks, each one a torment. Emma was trapped, living in a constant state of fear. The house felt different now, darker, colder, as if the presence of Cerberus had tainted it somehow. One day she found an old journal hidden in the attic. It belonged to a previous caretaker. The words scrawled in faded ink sent chills down her spine. The house was cursed, and Cerberus was its guardian, bound to the property for all eternity. And now it seemed so was she.
David, Emma's closest friend, couldn't shake the feeling of unease. Emma had been distant, withdrawn. Her calls were short, clipped, full of nervous laughter that didn't reach her eyes. Something was wrong. He knew it. He decided to surprise her. He drove through the night, arriving at Blackwood Manor as the sun began to rise. The sight of the house sent a shiver down his spine. It loomed over the landscape, dark and forbidding. He found Emma asleep at the kitchen table, her face pale and drawn. Relief washed over him, followed by a surge of concern. Emma tried to brush off his worries, claiming she was just tired. But David saw through the facade. He knew her too well. He pressed her, demanding to know what was going on. At first she resisted, but his unwavering concern chipped away at her resolve. She told him everything about the strange occurrences, the growls, the creature in the basement. David listened patiently, his skepticism warring with the genuine fear in her eyes. He didn't believe in ghosts or monsters, but he believed in Emma, and that was enough. David, a pragmatist at heart, searched for logical explanations. He inspected the house from top to bottom, searching for any sign of intruders or elaborate pranks. He found nothing. The house was secure. There were no signs of forced entry, no hidden speakers or projectors. He confronted Mrs. Hawthorne, the landlady, a frail, bird-like woman with sharp eyes that seemed to see right through him. She listened to his concerns, a small, knowing smile playing on her lips. When he was finished, she simply sighed and shook her head. She led him to the library, her footsteps slow but steady. She stopped in front of the tapestry, the one concealing the hidden door. David watched in astonishment as she pushed aside the heavy fabric and pointed down the stairs.
"Some secrets," she said, her voice barely a whisper, "are best left buried." She told him about the curse, about Cerberus, the guardian of the Underworld, bound to the house for all eternity. She explained that Emma wasn't in danger, not in the traditional sense. Cerberus wouldn't harm her, as long as she didn't try to leave.
David's world tilted on its axis. He struggled to reconcile the rationale with the impossible. Yet, faced with the undeniable strangeness surrounding Blackwood Manor and Emma's haunting experiences, he couldn't deny the truth. The house was a prison, Emma a captive, but not in the way he initially thought.
Mrs. Hawthorne revealed the final chilling piece of the puzzle. She wasn't just the landlady, she was the latest in a long line of guardians, tasked with watching over Cerberus and ensuring the curse held firm. Now, her time was coming to an end. She needed a successor, someone strong, capable, someone like Emma. David was horrified. To leave Emma in this place with that creature, it was unthinkable. He pleaded with Mrs. Hawthorne, offering himself in Emma's place. But the old woman simply shook her head. The choice wasn't hers to make, nor was it his. It was Emma's burden to bear.
David found Emma in the garden, a small patch of green struggling for life amidst the encroaching darkness of the surrounding woods. He told her everything about the curse, Mrs. Hawthorne's role, and the impossible choice she now faced. Silence hung heavy between them.
Emma listened, her expression unreadable. The weight of his words settled upon her, heavy and suffocating. She looked at the house, its imposing silhouette a stark reminder of her reality. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced through her. But beneath it, she felt a glimmer of something else, a strange sense of purpose. She had stumbled into this nightmare, an unsuspecting victim of fate. But now she saw a way to take back control, to face her fears and embrace the darkness that had become her reality. She wouldn't let it consume her. She would become its master. Emma turned to David, her eyes filled with a newfound resolve. She placed her hand on his, her touch firm. "I won't run," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I won't let fear control me anymore. I'll stay. I'll protect this place. I'll be the guardian."